Welcome to the Make and Design podcast. I'm your host, Carina Gardner. On this podcast, we're unraveling the everyday joys and dilemmas of design, making, and business. For makers who want to be designers and for designers who are makers, this is your inside scoop to help you grow your business and bring more creativity to your life. Today, I have been thinking about deadlines. Why? Because I've been under the gun and trying to finish a deadline. And I thought about how very often as designers, we actually don't have very many deadlines. So I thought we would touch on that today and talk about why you need deadlines. So deadlines imposed by other people and why you need to create some internal deadlines for yourself, because that will make you move faster and build your career faster as a designer. Okay, so let's talk about both of those aspects. First, I'll tell you guys what I've been under the gun for. So fabric very traditionally does not have a deadline. You have to do a self-imposed deadline. So this is why there are so many big gaps between my fabric lines, because when I get really busy, I just don't get to it, and then I don't self-impose a deadline. Well, it so happens the fabric line I am currently working on has a deadline, which rarely happens, and it's because it's seasonal. And last night, literally at the time of taping this I never do this, but yesterday, around 1:00, I started the master for this particular line. And I was like, I cannot believe I just waited until the very end to just start the master. But I was like, you know what? Like, you never know if you're going to get a fabric line. It doesn't matter that I've been doing this for 14 years. The truth is, you never know when a line is going to be rejected. Many lines are rejected. But I just said, you know what, I'm going to put together the master, because I know exactly, if I didn't know exactly what the master needed to be, I probably wouldn't have done this. But it had been in my head for 2 months, like I knew what the line was going to be. And so since it was in my head, it came faster, right? When we have clarity, it just comes so much faster. So I had clarity on what the line was supposed to be. It was just execution. So I worked on it probably from 1 until 5, picked up kids, all the stuff, and then got back to it at 6 and did it until it was probably 9. I like to go to bed at 9, but I was like, I need to finish most of this out. Okay, did I finish it? No, I did not. But I got the base of it done. And my goal is actually today to just like add a few more pieces to it and then send it over and just see what they think. Because if they reject it, the worst that, for me was the time. I'm just like, okay, I'm out that time. And I'm not really out that time, because if you've been to a boot camp with me, all of this will be repurposed into something else if it doesn't end up as a fabric line. Anyway, so that's why it's been on my head, because I rarely have a deadline for fabric, and I need to self-impose more deadlines. Okay, let's take 2 steps back. Let's talk about these 2 different deadlines. So external deadlines, which these are deadlines that are imposed by whoever you're working for. They are awesome. I love them. It tends to pull the priorities to the top, which, by the way, at the time of recording this, I'm just about to release with Megan Sumrell a new class. So be watching for that. That's coming out March 1st. And this whole thing reminded me of this, because time management is a real way designers can become so good at producing designs, coming out with designs. But if we aren't managing our time correctly, then it can become a really big problem. So the priority usually is these external deadlines being imposed on us. A good example of this is when I was the creative director at Carta Bella. We had a January CHA, which is the Craft and Hobby Association show. And we had to make sure that at least the first 3 months of lines were completely finished, like from top to bottom. Logo, production ready, every paper finished, had to be done for that show. But more than that, it had to be done in time for printing the catalog for that show, which generally got printed the first week of December. So even though we didn't have the show until the first or second week in January, we had to be 6 weeks ahead to make sure we were good. Well, that's a lot of design work. If it's 3 or 4 lines every single month, it's several lines, right? Which means that we have to start those lines in September, sometimes even July, to make sure that we get it done in time for that show. And then after that, you're just on a roll. Because of that, we had external deadlines. Like, these things had to be done, right? And so they became the top of my priority list. Okay, let's turn the handle a little bit and let's talk about internal deadlines. So the issue with internal deadlines is they never feel as strong as the external deadlines. At least they don't for me. And I have an internal deadline every single week on Saturday to turn in files for my silhouette. That's because I say it's an internal. It's actually an external. They force it. They say, here's your deadline. These have to be turned in or they won't be released next week. Okay, so it's external. But internally, I use that same deadline for every other shop that I currently design for. So if I produce 10 designs that week for maybe my silhouette shop, then I make sure that that same Saturday is an internal deadline, usually for at least one other shop out there. And if you're in Design Suite and you have questions about this, please ask me about it, because it is very difficult to be running multiple shops at a single time, okay? I have lots and lots of shops. Guess what? I'm not working in all of those shops at the same time. I'm very, very specifically handpicking which 1 or 2 shops I'm working on at that time to see what's going on trend-wise and see what is bringing in the most money. And then I'm letting all the rest of the shops bring me residual income, okay? This is something I talk about in boot camp. It's something I talk about in Design Suite. So if you're feeling run down, you're like, oh, I can't keep track of all 10 shops I'm in, 5 shops I'm in, 3 shops I'm in, that's okay. No one's expecting you to, okay? No one's expecting you to. I can really only manage 1, maybe 2 every single week, okay? But I have to impose those internal deadlines to make it happen. So what's my suggestion on this? Be consistent. Choose a day of the week. For me, it's Saturday. I know that sounds weird, but one of my main design days is Friday. I try to hold that day for designing. And because I do that, usually a lot of my stuff is ready to go Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, right now it's cold outside, so I'm not running, but I usually go for a run. Sometimes before that run, I will just sit down. I'll do all my submissions to my shops that I'm worried about that week. Takes me about an hour, run all the submissions, and then I go for my run. And that building that habit, we're still early in the year, but building those habits will really help you make sure that you are turning in the designs that need to be turned in. Now, I'm not worried for you once you get a contract, right? Because you're going to have that external deadline. But what I am worried about that I see very, very often, and if you're in my program and we're pushing sell some digital stuff so that we can get some residual income while we're getting the contracts, one of the things I see over and over and over again is the inability to set these internal deadlines. And yours does not have to be Saturday. Maybe it's Friday. Maybe it's Wednesday. Maybe it's Monday. I don't care. Just make it a habit that is the day, no matter how many designs you have. Maybe you only have 1. Maybe you have 20. That is the day you turn things in. You don't design that day. I rarely design on Saturday. I'm just turning them in. It's just a turn in day. So whatever's ready to go, that gets pushed out the door, okay? Hopefully this is helpful for you. And by the way, if you have not come and joined me for any of my current programs, we have a ton of new programs this year. I would love to see you. And once again, it's internal deadlines for me because that is what we've been working on. We have a boot camp coming up in the next couple of weeks. I would love to see you there. We have a brand new series called Accelerated Designer Workshop. This is such a cool series, you guys. I do a workshop every single month, once a month. And so you can come to a single workshop, just pay for a single workshop, which is only $67, or you can pay for the entire year and get an all access pass, and it has a replay, It's phenomenal. So just because you're listening to this in February, March, April, doesn't mean you can't still get the all access pass and be able to start at workshop number 1. Okay. I think it's invaluable. I literally built it for my Design Suite members because I was thinking about them and what I see them going through right now as they are learning to design and what I can do to help them become better. Okay. And then the last thing is we have an Illustrator Whiz workshop series. We have the very first one is available now as a replay. It's basically a course and it is for beginners. So if you are getting started in Illustrator, it's really tough for you, this is going to really help you out so much. This is a beginning skill level type course. So I hope you enjoy that. I hope you got a lot out of this and that you are personally building some deadlines for yourself so that you can be putting your designs out in the world and that you're not just sitting on them. All right, guys, can't wait to talk to you soon. Hey, did you know that you can visit me at makeanddesign.com to learn more about this podcast and join my VIP group for weekly freebies? I can't wait to see you there.